to make sure that we really hammer you in the ballot box. Leave alone. Yeah, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Genocide, Jim. I'll let you know, genocide, Jim. We're going to show you what real genocide is. Leave me alone. We'll show you exactly where the real genocide is. We're going to show you what real genocide is. We're going to shaft you in the ballot box. We're going to shaft a pole up your rear and make sure that it comes out of your mouth, and make sure that you speak out, free Palestine, free Palestine. Dirty Debbie, bear our word. We're gonna make sure that every voter spanks you so hard that you become X-rated. And don't touch me. That you become X-rated and ensure that you land up in the red light districts of Amsterdam. Are you happy there? Happy the thing? We know who you are. If you know who you are, you go from one post to another, you change your spots. 10 years you've been independent. Yeah, now you are Labour. You don't leave me alone. I told you to leave me alone. What are you playing now? Don't bully me. Now you change spots again from independent to Labour. Yeah. Remember one thing. Don't leave me alone, bro. No. Listen, King Charles, leave me alone. King Charles, we ask you to stop this genocide. You've got the authority to stop this genocide.
Oi, leave him alone, man. Yeah, why are you doing that for? I've never seen that before. Cancel the meeting, what are you doing? Why are you doing that for? Tell them to go off him. We've got precedents that you cancel the meeting and take it behind closed doors. Don't touch him. Tell him to stop touching him. Why is there double standards? Tell him to let go of him. Tell him to let go of him. Cancel the meeting and take it behind back doors. Leave him alone.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
When Cllr Abdul Waheed met with me recently, as is often the case in the places where I come from, he was keen to remind me that whilst I may not recognise the man, I would recognise the child that he was, and more importantly, who his father was. His father, Ashraf, who ran the off licence on Chadderton Way, that we'd go and get videos from and buy sweets from, should be very proud of his son for the way he spoke out, for his genuine shock and outrage, and for his concern that I know is echoed by every one of us, regardless of our background or our faith or our political beliefs. That man was assaulted at the instructions of Councillor Eddie Moore's deputy mayor. That man was assaulted at the instructions of Oldham Council. He was encouraged, Eddie Moores was encouraged, and the security guards were encouraged by the leader of Oldham Council, AROOJ SHAH, And also, if you can hear the words, go back and play them. Or play off the council webpage if they haven't taken the video down. And to my friends at Oldham Council, I've already downloaded the video. So any attempts to edit it, retrospectively edit it, like AROOJ SHAH retrospectively edited her declaration of interest, will only put you in more bother. Encouraged, instructed by Eddie Moores to assault a member of the public in the public gallery. Instructed by the deputy mayor, who is chair of the meeting, to assault a member of the public. Encouraged by Oldham Council leader AROOJ SHAH. And furthermore, if you listen carefully, you can hear the words of Dirty Harry Caffrell, the chief executive of Oldham Council. He should now be immediately sacked. The chief executive should be immediately sacked. AROOJ SHAH can backpedal all she wants, but we can clearly hear her voice, her whine. He's being really vulgar. What's vulgar is you, AROOJ SHAH. What's vulgar is how you are ignoring the legitimate grievances of the people of Oldham, both Muslim and white, to advance your career and protect your Labour Party. That's what's vulgar. Eddie Moores should be forced to resign with immediate effect. The police should be called in to prosecute the security guards, and the council should issue an immediate apology. Paul Entwistle knows what went wrong there. Go back and look at that video and you'll see Paul Entwistle knows full well what went wrong there. And Cllr WAHID is 100% spot on when he says we have precedent. And that precedent is to suspend the meeting, cancel the meeting, go and reconvene elsewhere. Why did you feel it was appropriate, Eddie Moores, AROOJ SHAH, Harry Caffrell, to order the assault of a man? Why? Which is why we have no alternative. It does not matter that I am on police bail. We have no alternative. I encourage, and I will be there, every one of us to march on the Civic Centre at the next council meeting, white, black, Muslim, Christian, whatever. This council cannot be allowed to assault members of the public. This council cannot be allowed to assault members of the public. This is our town, not theirs. They serve us. What's AROOJ SHAH going to do? Get a convicted heroin dealer, gangster boyfriend to join Capricorn Security? Capricorn Security that have questions themselves over serious financial mismanagement and how they secured that contract. How many are you going to bring, Capricorn? Because I'm going to bring the town with me. That man is in hospital. He suffered a heart attack. He's been assaulted by individuals paid for by you and me at the instructions of individuals that represent you and me. And I don't care if you don't agree with his politics. I don't care what his politics are or what he's complaining about. I care that a member of the public has been assaulted in the public gallery at the instructions of Eddie Moores, the mayor, encouraged by the leader of the council, AROOJ SHAH, and her £100,000 part-time chief executive sidekick, Harry Caffrell. That's what I care about. I don't care what he said. Because Cllr Waahid is right again. There is a precedent. Stop the meeting, go and reconvene elsewhere. They can do it to him. They can do it to you. And off the record of AROOJ SHAH and her council, they will do it to you. Okay. Let's take a pause. This is a live Q&A. I'm not doing a line-by-line analysis now, but I'm saving that for Sunday night. So if you've got questions, bring them up. I will share some of my headline points from last night's council meeting with you, whilst I'm waiting for questions to come up. So this session will only work with your active involvement of any points you want to raise, any comments you want to make, or any questions that you have. My initial observations of the meeting itself was how Labour were desperate to blame national government, and then try and spin it to take the credit for things that they had not even been responsible for doing. So that's my first observation. There was clear divisions in the Labour ranks. And the clap for AROOJ SHAH was muted after a speech, and Abdul Jabbar got next to nothing. Abdul Jabbar looks like a man who is punch drunk. He has no idea of what is going on. There was a point in the meeting where they attacked Lewis Quigg regarding Abdul Jabbar taking offence to the claim that the council was at risk of bankruptcy. Well, Abdul Jabbar himself has confirmed that, as quoted in the Oldham Chronicle last week, where he himself makes reference to the government needing to intervene because it can't continue like this. Sorry, Tony, that's a point. I don't know if the men were Capricorn. I just presumed they were Capricorn men because the securities is usually Capricorn. But they're council employees, that makes it even worse. It's a valid point. I will find out. Four members from different parties told them to stop blaming central government. So that no longer washes in this town. That no longer washes in this town. So the usual defence of let's blame the Tories didn't work. So the next attempt, and Shoaib Akhtar did this, and clearly he was instructed to do this because this is what they meet beforehand, was to blame the Conservatives for being racists and Islamists. I'm not a fan of the Saddleworth Conservatives, but there's nothing from any of them, Luke, Pam, Max, or Graham, to suggest anything that they're racist. Never mind Islamists. I know the Oldham ones most definitely are not. Dave, Lewis, Beth, no chance. And more so until recently, they had 3 Asian councillors that were Conservatives. 3 Muslim councillors that were Conservatives. So desperately, they tried, after failing to say it was the government's fault, or failing for that argument to stick, they tried to accuse the Conservatives of being racists and Islamists. As if Liz Truss, whatever she says or doesn't say, has any bearing on Oldham, or that any of the Oldham councillors, some Conservative councillors, have any influence over Liz Truss. If you want to use that comparable, then AROOJ SHAH is a genocide enabler. Because of what Keir Starmer said and some of these other senior MPs said at the time about denying water and collective punishment. If we're going to play that game, well, AROOJ SHAH, you're a genocide supporter. I'll go and put a leaflet out across Glodick, AROOJ SHAH supporting genocide. Irish Imi, of course, has nowhere to hide because he's in trial next month, is my understanding. March, isn't it, Irish Imi? AROOJ SHAH is contacting her mates to keep the news hidden from the mainstream media, perhaps. That's why you've not heard it yet. So the Islamist and racist card didn't wash. The nasty Tories government cutback fault didn't wash. And as Lewis pointed out, the chair of the local government association himself, having investigated those councils that have gone bankrupt, the evidence shows that they've not gone bankrupt because of financial reasons. They've gone bankrupt because of mismanagement reasons. There I was, Ian, nibbling a samosa in a friend's takeaway, wondering if something more substantial was going to emerge from the kitchen a little while later. You think I'm joking? I'm not joking. Sat there, nibbling a samosa on a plastic tray with a bit of mint sauce and some salad. And one of the Pakistani Glodick lads, a friend of mine, was sharing with me his story. They've lost the bloc vote. They've lost the Muslims. They've lost the young people. The threats aren't working because we've got more muscle than they've got. They're going round to our elders, the traditional cartel generals, to try and shore up as many postal votes as possible. But what they don't understand is for every 1 postal vote they've got, we've got 10 postal votes. So these lads are fighting dirty, matching the corruption that the cartels have relied on, and using the very weapons used against us to fight back against the cartels. So that is how much the bloc vote has turned on them. They hate them. They despise them, and particularly the young. Did you see that video in Rochdale? And today's the by-election in Rochdale, which will tell us a lot. Did you see that video in the kebab shop of those young lads swearing at the elders? These things are unheard of. Did you see that man yesterday? He wasn't a young man, was he? He wasn't a 20-something-year-old angry guy. And his last words, pleading. He was pleading to King Charles. These people aren't Islamists or racists, as some want to portray them as, because their politics don't agree with them. We know all about that, don't we? Of how they called us racist and far right, because what we cared about didn't align with what they wanted to focus on and what they needed to hide. So we're very familiar with those tactics. Which is why the majority of us in this town are resisting their divisive policies and their divisive politics. If someone wants to care about the murder of a child, the bombing of a child, the killing of a child in Gaza, let them. I'm supportive of them caring, as I care. Likewise, I want these people to care about the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children in our town, and vice versa. And AROOJ SHAH's divisive politics, the Labour Party's racist politics, because that's what it is, turning you against me and me against you, is now crumbling. And the bloc vote has turned. And no amount of Shoaib Akhtar calling Liz Truss a racist or an Islamist will in any way get any of these people to go and vote for Labour. Now, they won't vote for the Conservatives. But that is a different challenge. That is a different challenge. I'll bring this up. Do I believe this money mismanagement on behalf of the council, misappropriation of funds and overspending in areas that only benefits the council and not the public of Oldham? Listen, this is what I believe. I believe the council officers run this town. Harry Caffrell and his team of executives. There's a woman who sits there, I think she sits next to Emma Barton. That woman, and the police should investigate, but they won't. And when we take our town back, when you elect me, we will force them to investigate. That woman turned up with a tape recorder, a hidden tape recorder, to a public meeting to try and spy on members of the public at the beginning of this. And used the recordings to try and have people sacked from their jobs for turning up to a public meeting to hear about the concerns of the gang rape of children. And now she sits at the council top table as one of its £100,000 a year plus council officers. This council is dysfunctional. It's not functioning at all. It's not fit for purpose. And what's taking place is the council officers are feasting with record salaries and minimum work and doing what they want. And when there's any scrutiny, they go off on long-term sick. And then they disappear. How many of you knew? One for you, Gary, and all of you who received those letters banning you from the council meetings for crimes such as wagging your finger. How many of you knew that Elizabeth Drogan is now gone? The council will tell us why. I suspect there's been a without prejudice agreement done. So, the misappropriation of funding, first and foremost, the council executives look after themselves and make sure that their hundreds of thousands of pounds of salaries and minimum work is protected. The councillors, as you saw yesterday, the Labour councillors in particular, Two of them stood up when were outraged. The most outrage he saw from them was their outrage that they should also take pay cuts, have their expenses cut back. You want us to do this for free? Well, actually, no one was asking you for doing it for free. What they were saying was everyone should do it for civic service first and foremost. So, the councillors have been awarded themselves record pay rises, and the independent panel that they kept making reference to. Do you know who chairs that independent panel that sets the council pay? I went and looked it up a few years ago. It took me a while to find the information because it's buried. That independent pay panel that awards the pay rises. Do you know who it is? It's Paul Entwistle. Yeah. And then we come to the misspending of our money. I am in no doubt whatsoever. Some of it is outright fraud and stolen from us. No doubt whatsoever. In my mind, some of it is outright fraud and it's stolen from us, and a genuine investigation by the government would prove it and see some of these people in prison. And another significant percentage reminds me of that old saying, a fool and his money. Well, in this case, it's not their money, it's our money. Which is why you've seen hundreds of millions blown on one record game changer after another. Someone's been making the money, but it's not you, it's not me. There's no jobs, there's no buildings, there's nothing to show for it at the end. Yes. Yes, she was on long-term sick. Denise, that's Elizabeth Drogan, on and off. Came and went. I think she was on long-term sick on and off for at least a year or so. I think you should know, as a taxpayer, how much of your money was used to pay her off. So yeah, I think they have been blowing our money, misspending our money, and misspending it in a number of areas. On one extreme, it's fraud. On the other extreme, it's just paying organisations money without doing proper due diligence and then wondering why. Sean Fielding bought a shopping centre, remember? He was going to do all of these things to the shopping centre during the global pandemic, said it was a good deal, even though he'd never visited it, and said so himself, he'd not visited it. And then because they've not done the due diligence, they realised they didn't own the leases. And the lease we know about was the Debenham store that they had to pay, what, another 300, 400, 500,000 pounds for, of your money? So that's the other extreme. And somewhere in the middle is snouts in the trough. Did Lewis Quigg use the phrase? Multiple times, I think he did use the phrase. Drain the swamp. That's what needs doing at the Civic Centre. The swamp needs draining. I thought Labour's desperation then, when blaming the Tories had failed and accusing them of being racist had failed, the desperation of trying to take credit for things they weren't responsible for from the council taxpayers' budget was a standout moment yesterday. I found that hilarious. These houses that they keep going on about aren't being built by your council tax money, they're being built by grants from central government. The regeneration of Chadderton Town Centre, the 20 million or so, is a grant from that nasty, evil, conservative central government. Northern Roots, that you hate and I hate, because I don't believe that any one of us wants to see hundreds of millions spent on schemes that include glamping in Glodick or skinny dipping in the Snipe. Was also secured by applying for grants from central government. Now, the problem with Northern Roots was it got grants from central government that were competing with other projects from Oldham. Now, who decided Northern Roots was more important than, for instance, the regeneration of parts of Union Street? Or something in Failsworth, Shaw, Chadderton, Royton, Saddleworth. It was Abdul Jabbar and AROOJ SHAH. So those are the three ways in which they try to defend themselves. What was one of my other takeaways whilst I look at the questions? One of my other takeaways was how well Sam Al-Hamdani did. Now, I don't like Sam, but he did well. And I think I'm a fair and reasonable man. I try to be anyway. And I acknowledge merit where I see it. There was no script he was reading off. He had notes, bullet points, but there's no script he was reading off. Did you see? He did well. And he laid a brilliant trap for them, where the Labour Party stood up and questioned where he got his data and his information from. He knew they were going to do that, and he said, well, I got this from Freedom of Information request to your council. That was just like, when I was a teenager, that's what I would refer to as a bitch slap. He just slapped Jabbar and AROOJ SHAH right back down. But, well, I got them from Freedom of Information requests. The data that demonstrates that this council's Don't Trash Oldham scheme is failing, and it's failing to enforce anything of any magnitude, that data, the housing, the money, that comes from Freedom of Information requests. Are you lying then, Oldham Council? Are your officers lying in responding to a Freedom of Information requests from other councillors? So I thought Sam did very, very well. Howard Sykes seems to be rousing from his slumber. And whatever I think of him, again, he's a heavyweight politician in more ways than one. He's a heavyweight politician in more ways than one. But the comedy bit from the Lib Dems was when Dave Murphy has the confidence to go for you, and then when he goes for you, his punches land. It's time to give it up. Hints got minced. Hurley and Ball, mute as usual, sat there looking, what happened there? Oh, did you see that, Sandra? What happened? No, Maggie, I didn't see it. Hints got minced. The Secret Squirrel Club. Is that what he called them? The Secret Squirrel Club. The fake independents. The Secret Squirrel Club, who couldn't be bothered to even submit their own budget amendments. Still took the money though, didn't you, Mark? Is that not what the last slap was? Still took the money, but you couldn't do the work. And what was Hints' complaint? We don't have the expertise. We don't have the support. Where's the big team? Mark Hints, you absolute pillock. Where's your big team now? We don't have the support. And that was repeated, the criticism of the big team throughout the night. How can you stand up and critique or have an opinion on anything else when you were given the opportunity and you also had the responsibility to do so? You did nothing. And when he tried to attack with his point of order, point of this, point of that, no idea what it is, do you? Hints. He was criticising the Lib Dems regarding the parish council until Sam al-Abdani politely clarified with him that council tax rises include a whole host of statutory responsibility in terms of services delivered, whilst the parish council has no statutory duty in what it delivers. But the Muppet Mark Hints didn't know the difference between a parish council and a proper council. Is too stupid to realise just what happened to him in that council chamber last night. Is too stupid to realise what happened to him in that council chamber last night. And the other two, Sandra Ball and Maggie Hurley. I'll show him. I'll show him. Just wait until I get in there. I used to be a landlady, you know. I'll show him. Big team. Big bollocks. Of course, Mark Wilkinson from Failsworth has joined the big team and is standing for election on a big team ticket. That's right, isn't it, Mark? I know you view these transmissions, you and your wife, even though you don't subscribe anymore. I know you get hold of this, the links, and view them. You're standing on the big team ticket, aren't you? You think it's right that your colleagues take £120,000 and more and don't submit an alternative budget? In the world I come from, you only get paid for the work you do. What went wrong? Did John Hughes not know how to analyse the 800 or so pages? Did Nick Summerscales get his felt tip set out and his highlighters and get confused of what to highlight and when? And you got back a colouring in book that you give to a 6-year-old child? What went wrong? Brian Hoban actually did well. He disagreed with the Conservatives on one issue. I think he understood it wrong. To do with district partnerships. But he himself admitted that 800 pages is a lot to go through. But his comment, specific comment, on the cupboards being bare and this council being in a mess, on the verge of bankruptcy, was spot on. He came across measured. And at least he didn't make a fool of himself, unlike Mark Mince and the big team. Now, I don't agree with Brian on a lot of things. I don't agree with Sam. I'm being fair. I thought Woodvine's last comment of Jabbar speaking out of his anus was very much Max Woodvine. I also found it interesting that they repeatedly, AROOJ SHAH, Abdul Jabbar, repeatedly criticised Max for not going to the meetings, or when going to the meetings not paying attention. Well, he clearly paid enough attention and clearly took back enough information for the Conservatives to come up with an alternative budget that would have frozen council tax. Crying that you can't cut councillors from 60 to 40 because someone has said no to us before is a false narrative. The Boundary Commission have a statutory duty every so many years, a decade or so, to come along, or 2 decades to come along and review. That doesn't mean that the council can't review it themselves. A housing association has a duty to come and look at a house every 12 months or every 2 years or whatever it is. That doesn't mean that you can't look around your house and think, oh, that needs a lick of paint. In the meantime, so you can reduce councillors from 60 to 40. The council does have the power. Cutting executive salaries, not one of them came up with a reason as to why they shouldn't freeze, not cut, freeze for 2 years the salaries of the millionaire council officers on £100,000 and more. Not one of them came up with a reason why. So Brian Hoban did all right. Hints got minced. The Liberal Democrats did well. And despite the Liberal Democrats calling themselves the main opposition, did you see where all the anger and angst and concern was directed towards from Labour? It wasn't the Lib Dems, was it? It was Lewis Quigg. Who's up for re-election in a couple of months. And Labour will be doing everything possible to remove Lewis, because Lewis is the real opposition in that council chamber. Beth Sharp spoke well. Thankfully, Pam Byrne didn't speak at all. And Dave came across as very reasoned. And I think every one of us will agree with the point he made when Shoaib Akhtar was accusing them of being racist and Islamists. And he objected to it. That the mayor, this is the mayor, by the way, who'd already encouraged an assault on a member of the public, was hesitant to criticise Labour and treat the meeting, the different factions in the meeting, equitably. There's clear bias in that council chamber, and that bias is towards the Labour Party, where they can do what they want, when they want, to who they want, and if you don't like it, they'll assault you. They'll order people to assault you. Cameron Gaffer and his Oldham group, I think 2 of them supported the Conservative amendment. 1 of them didn't. It's fine. I think that shows independent thinking. I'm all right with that. And the Conservatives themselves will confirm that the information was not given to them in a timely way. by the council officers, and information was also held back from them. The purpose of an alternative budget, I think as Sam Al-Hamdani made reference to, was to show vision and hope that there is a better way. We can fix this. The answers are in our hands and we are the masters of our own destiny, rather than crying and blaming someone else or going Oliver Twist style with a bowl saying, please sir, can we have some more? And if I have a reflection on anything of the council meeting last night, apart from the horrific assault I witnessed, it is the reaffirmation and the amplification of what we've been saying from the outset. We can fix this, and we will fix this, and we will take this council out of AROOJ SHAH's control. This council will go into no overall control, and we will work to achieve this. And I have the commitment from opposition parties, and if Hince, Hurley and Ball so much as deviate on this, I think their own people will go and lynch them. I won't have to say anything. Their own people will go and lynch them. If they so much as vote against a public inquiry into the cover-up of the gang rape of children, if they so much as try and abstain on calling in the government to take over control of this town and investigate those who lead it for corruption, then I think the people of this town will chase these people out of town. So that's my analysis. As for AROOJ SHAH claiming there'll be more Labour councillors, she is absolutely delusional. AROOJ SHAH, we're going to take the council from out of your hands. We might not be able to remove you because you've gone into your Glodic stronghold, where even now the people have turned against you. But we're going to take the council from you. And then your own councillors are going to stab you in the back and stab you in the front and remove you from power. Mark my words. No former Viagra salesman, want to be humanitarian, convicted heroin dealer is going to be able to collect you enough postal votes. We're going to beat you in St. Mary's. We're going to beat you in Alexandra. We're going to beat you in Hollingwood. We're going to beat you in Waterhead. These are traditional Pakistani strongholds. We're going to take you out in all four of those places. You're going to beat you in wards in Chadderton. And in Failsworth, if Mark Wilkinson doesn't see sense, because Brian Hoban is ready to talk, is ready to resolve this, and is willing to apologise and compromise and do all the things we expect a leader to do, which is acknowledge their mistakes and move on for the betterment and the greater good. If Mark Wilkinson isn't prepared, maybe he needs to ask his wife first for permission, because that's what's increasingly looking like to me. Well then, even if Labour take Failsworth West and Failsworth East, that will only be temporary, because the big team will be wiped out. And we'll still, even though we lose a seat in Failsworth, because one of the seats is a Labour seat standing in Failsworth West, remember, even if we lose Lucia, who's a decent councillor, even if we lose Lucia in the East, he'll clear the decks of the poison that is John Hughes, Maggie Hurley, Mark Ince, Sandra Ball and the big team, who've betrayed every one of us. Time, as they say, is ticking. I've got to go away and help people write motions for the last council meeting. A whole host of councillors from various parties have contacted me requesting that I support them. Not the big team, but others from elsewhere have. I will. I urge you all to contact me to write some public questions, get some public questions in. Mark the date in your diary, and we will go to that council meeting and let them know that they cannot assault our people. Whatever colour they are, whatever faith they are, whatever their political beliefs, we will not allow or accept the assault on members of the public in the public gallery. And we will make sure Shah and their associates fear us. See you all on Sunday evening.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.